You're telling me these hairless apes with barely functional appendages are our last hope? Commander Zrix flared his gill slits in what the rest of the Galactic Alliance recognized as the Mrenan equivalent of an eye roll. The same species that still gets excited about shiny rocks and poisoning themselves for recreation. Lieutenant Dorvan tapped nervously on his datapad, mandibles clicking in agitation. Sir, the humans call the rocks diamonds and the poisoning alcohol. But yes, the tactical simulations are quite clear. They're our only viable option against the Vrex Dominion. Wonderful, Zrix muttered, his translucent skin shifting to a shade of disgruntled mauve. The fate of 27 sentient species rests on creatures who spent most of their evolutionary history figuring out how to throw pointy sticks better. The command bridge of the Celestial Accord hummed with nervous energy as crew members from a dozen different species monitored the approach of the human battle fleet. The Alliance flagship, once the pride of intergalactic diplomacy, now bore the scars of 3 brutal Vrex attacks. Emergency lighting cast everything in a sickly blue glow, making even the normally cheerful Peloran navigator look like a cadaver. Sir, Dorvan continued, I've studied their military history extensively. Humans have this peculiar quality that makes them extraordinarily effective in combat scenarios. Yes, I've heard the stories. Zrix waved a webbed hand dismissively. They're relentless, adaptable, unpredictable. The same qualities you find in a virus or particularly ambitious fungus. Tell me something I don't know. Dorvan straightened his exoskeleton, his compound eyes catching the light. They have a saying, sir. Hold my beer. It roughly translates to, I am about to attempt something so monumentally stupid that it circles back around to brilliant, but only if I survive. The commander stared at his lieutenant for a long moment. And this is supposed to reassure me? The Vrex have conquered 11 systems with perfect logical efficiency, sir. They've never encountered a species that views logic as more of a suggestion. A proximity alert chimed, and the massive view screen shifted to show the approaching human fleet. For a species that had achieved faster-than-light travel barely 50 years ago, their ships displayed a bewildering lack of uniformity. Each vessel bore the distinct characteristics of different Earth nations, corporations, and in some cases, what appeared to be individual design preferences. By the 7 moons, Zrix breathed, they all look different. Where's the standardization? The efficiency? Humans call it creativity, Dorvan offered. They're rather proud of it. It's chaos. Yes, sir. That's rather the point. The communications officer, a willowy Theln with skin like polished obsidian, turned from her station. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship. They're requesting permission to dock. Zrix sank lower in his hydro chair. Put them through. Let's meet our saviors. The view screen flickered, and a human face appeared. Male by their dimorphic standards, with skin the color of the sandy beaches on Rena's southern continent, and a neatly trimmed facial growth that humans considered attractive for reasons no xenobiologist had ever adequately explained. Commander Zrix, Captain Alex Reeves of the Earth Defense Force vessel Intrepid. Hope we're not late to the party. Zrix noted the human's easy smile, which showed far too many teeth to be considered polite in most galactic cultures. Captain Reeves, your timing is adequate. The Vrex have yet to breach the Arcturus defensive line. Good to hear. We brought some friends who've been eager to test their mettle against these Vrex fellows. The human's smile widened, a predatory gleam in his eyes that made Zrix's swim bladder tighten instinctively. Permission to dock and coordinate strategy? Granted, Zrix replied, wondering if he had just invited doom or salvation aboard his ship. With humans, the two concepts seemed disturbingly interchangeable. Captain Alex Reeves strode through the corridors of the Celestial Accord with the casual confidence of someone who had never known the crushing weight of a superior species boot. Flanked by his executive officer, Commander Diane Wells, and his tactical officer, Lieutenant Obi Nkosi, Alex couldn't help but notice the mixture of hope and trepidation in the eyes of the Alliance crew they passed. They're looking at us like we're either going to save them or eat them, Diane muttered, nodding politely to a group of tentacled engineers who had pressed themselves against a wall to let the humans pass. Given humanity's history, I can understand their concern, Alex replied. We're not exactly known for playing well with others. That was before first contact, Obi reminded them, adjusting the neural interface at his temple. We've been model galactic citizens for almost 5 decades. Model citizens who still maintain an independent military, Diane pointed out. while the rest of the Alliance pooled their defensive resources. Alex shrugged. Call it healthy paranoia. Today it's paying dividends. The bridge of the Celestial Accord was a marvel of cooperative engineering, a perfect blend of 27 different species' technological approaches. Where human ships featured utilitarian design with controls built for five-fingered hands, the Alliance flagship accommodated tentacles, claws, pincers, and even the occasional psychokinetic interface. Commander Zrix rose from his hydro chair as the humans entered. His gill slits fluttering in what Alex's cultural training had taught him was a sign of formal acknowledgement. Captain Reeves, welcome aboard the Celestial Accord. I trust your journey through the Sirius corridor was uneventful? About as uneventful as dancing through a minefield can be, Alex replied, extending a hand before remembering the Mrenan custom and instead pressing his palms together in front of his chest. Your defensive arrays need calibration, by the way. They nearly tagged our support vessels twice. Zrix's skin shifted to an embarrassed orange. Our apologies. The systems were damaged in the last Vrex assault, and our engineers have been working around the clock to restore functionality. No harm done. Now, I understand you have a Vrex problem that needs solving. The commander gestured to the holographic display in the center of the bridge, where a three-dimensional map of the sector glowed with an ominous red mass slowly encroaching on a blue defensive line. The Vrex Dominion has systematically conquered 11 systems in the past 2 galactic standard years. Their tactics are flawless. They analyze defensive patterns, identify weaknesses, and exploit them with ruthless efficiency. Alex circled the display, studying the movement patterns. Textbook swarm theory. They're using distributed intelligence networks, aren't they? Lieutenant Dorvan's mandibles clicked in surprise. Yes, exactly. How did you know? We've been analyzing your battle footage since your first distress call reached Earth, Obi explained, stepping forward. The Vrex operate like a hive-mind, but with individual tactical autonomy, rather like Argentine ants or African driver ants back on Earth. You compare a technologically advanced enemy to insects? Zrix's gill slits flared in disbelief. With respect, Commander, Alex said. Humans have a long history of studying successful biological systems and applying their principles to warfare. The Vrex aren't insects, but they behave according to similar optimization principles. And this helps us how exactly? Because, Alex smiled that too many teeth smile again, we've spent thousands of years figuring out how to disrupt such systems. Ant colonies are remarkably resilient, until you introduce the right kind of chaos. Diane tapped her wrist computer, and the holographic display shifted, overlaying the Vrex formations with a new pattern in green. We're proposing a three-pronged approach. Our heavy cruisers will engage their forward elements here, here, and here. She pointed to 3 seemingly random points in the Vrex formation. Those aren't their weakest points, Dorvan observed, confusion evident in his rapidly blinking compound eyes. No, Alex agreed. They're not, which is precisely why the Vrex won't expect us to hit them there. Meanwhile, our stealth corvettes will target these communication nodes, temporarily isolating sections of their fleet from the collective intelligence. Zrix studied the plan with growing skepticism. This strategy defies conventional logic. You're deliberately attacking their strongest positions with your most valuable assets. Exactly, Alex said, clapping his hands together. The Vrex have conquered 11 systems using perfect logical efficiency. They've never faced an enemy that would willingly sacrifice tactical advantage for strategic chaos. It's madness, the commander protested. No, Alex corrected, his expression suddenly serious. It's human. 5 hours later, as Alex stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, watching the final preparations for battle, he couldn't help but reflect on the absurdity of the situation. Humanity, barely a century removed from fighting over patches of dirt on their homeworld, now represented the last, best hope for a coalition of species so advanced they had eliminated war amongst themselves centuries ago. Penny for your thoughts, Captain? Diane asked, joining him at the viewport. Just appreciating the irony, he replied. The Alliance achieved peace through perfect cooperation and logic. And now they need us, the species that still can't agree on a planetary government, because we're illogical and uncooperative. Perhaps that's the universe's greatest joke, she mused. Evolution rewards both cooperation and competition, but neither works perfectly on its own. Permission to speak freely, sir? Lieutenant Commander Raj Batra, the ship's chief engineer, approached with a datapad in hand. Always, Raj. The Alliance engineers think we're insane. I just spent 3 hours explaining why we're overriding safety protocols on the fusion drives, and I'm pretty sure they're writing their wills as we speak. Alex chuckled. Did you tell them it's perfectly safe as long as nothing goes wrong? I did. That's when the Theln engineers started making what I think were religious gestures. Any technical concerns I should know about? Raj shook his head. Nothing we haven't done before, sir. The reactor modifications will give us a 42% boost in maneuverability for approximately 8 minutes before we need to vent the system. Cutting it close, but we've cut it closer. Alex finished for him. Excellent work, Commander. The tactical console chimed, and Obi called out from his station. Captain, Vrex fleet has altered course. They're accelerating toward the Arcturus defensive line. Alex nodded, his expression hardening as he moved to the command chair. Right on schedule. Looks like they took the bait. All hands to battle stations. Commander Wells, signal the fleet. Operation Thunderstrike is a go. Throughout the human armada, klaxons blared and crew members raced to their positions with practiced efficiency. Unlike the elegant, automated systems of the Alliance vessels, human ships still relied heavily on the intuition and adaptability of their crews. Where an Alliance ship might have 3 officers monitoring automated systems, a human vessel had dozens of specialists, each responsible for systems that could theoretically have been managed by AI. The Alliance still doesn't understand why we limit our shipboard AI, Diane commented as she took her station. They will, Alex replied grimly. The moment the Vrex hijack their automated defense systems, again, they'll understand. The view screen showed the Alliance fleet arranged in a perfect defensive formation, a textbook response that had failed 11 times against the Vrex's superior analytical capabilities. Behind them, the human fleet appeared almost disorganized, ships clustered in seemingly random groupings that defied conventional tactical wisdom. All ships report ready, Captain, Obi announced. Stealth corvettes are in position. Communications from the Celestial Accord, the comms officer reported. Commander Reeves wishes us favorable probabilities. I think that's a good luck wish. Alex settled into his command chair, feeling the familiar surge of adrenaline that preceded combat. Let's show them how humans fight. Lieutenant Nkosi, signal all ships. Execute battle plan Chimera. The human fleet burst into motion, ships accelerating in patterns that seemed chaotic to the untrained eye, but followed a complex algorithm designed to appear random, while maximizing unpredictability. The Vrex fleet, accustomed to the methodical, logical responses of Alliance tactics, momentarily hesitated. A barely perceptible pause that lasted less than 5 seconds. In those 5 seconds, 34 stealth corvettes decloaked deep within Vrex territory, unleashing targeted electromagnetic pulses at key communication nodes. EMP strike successful, Obi reported, a note of satisfaction in his voice. Vrex communication grid is experiencing 58% disruption. Phase 2, Alex ordered, leaning forward in his chair. All cruisers, execute attack pattern Delta. The human heavy cruisers, including the Intrepid, suddenly accelerated toward the heart of the Vrex formation, directly at their strongest points. Alliance observers watched in horror as what appeared to be a suicide run unfolded before their eyes. Vrex ships are adjusting to intercept, Diane reported. They're taking the bait, Captain. Steady, steady. Alex watched the tactical display with intense focus. Now, all ships, execute maneuver Shadow Box. The cruisers abruptly changed course in perfect synchronization, creating the illusion that they were in multiple places simultaneously due to sensor ghosting technology borrowed from deep-sea cephalopods on Earth. The Vrex ships, momentarily confused by conflicting sensor data, fired on phantom targets. Phase 3, Alex commanded. Unleash the Hornets. From the belly of each cruiser, swarms of micro-drones, thousands of them, each barely larger than a human fist, erupted into space. Unlike traditional weapons, these drones carried no explosives or energy weapons. Instead, they were designed for a single purpose: to attach to Vrex ships and broadcast contradictory command signals on Vrex communication frequencies. Chaos agents deployed, Obi confirmed. Impact in 30 seconds. Commander Reex's voice crackled over the comm. Captain Reeves, what are those devices? They don't appear to be armed. They're not weapons, Commander, Alex replied. They're translators. They're going to help the Vrex ships have a little disagreement amongst themselves. As the micro-drones attached to the hulls of Vrex vessels, they began broadcasting contradictory tactical commands. In a hierarchical military, such confusion might have been quickly resolved by referring to a central authority. But the Vrex, with their distributed intelligence system, had no clear arbiter when facing conflicting optimal solutions. The result was immediate and spectacular. Vrex ships began to break formation, some accelerating while others reversed course. Friendly fire incidents erupted as targeting systems received conflicting identification signals. "It's working," Diane breathed, watching the tactical display. "Their formation is collapsing." Alex allowed himself a small smile. Phase 4. All Alliance ships, target the highlighted Vrex vessels. These are their tactical coordinators. Fire at will. The Alliance fleet, previously hesitant to engage in what had appeared to be a suicidal human tactic, now moved with renewed purpose. Their precision weapons found their marks with devastating effect, eliminating the key nodes that the Vrex relied upon to reorganize in the face of unexpected developments. Vrex fleet is in disarray, Obi reported. Approximately 40% of their vessels are withdrawing. The remainder are attempting to regroup. "Don't give them time," Alex ordered. "All ships, press the advantage, maintain unpredictable movement patterns and continue deploying chaos agents." For the next 2 hours, the combined human and Alliance fleets systematically dismantled the Vrex armada. Where the Alliance brought overwhelming firepower and technological superiority, the humans contributed unpredictability and tactical innovation that the hive-mind enemy simply couldn't counter effectively. When the last Vrex ship jumped to hyperspace in retreat, a cheer went up across the human fleet. On the bridge of the Intrepid, however, Alex remained focused. "Damage report," he demanded. "We've lost 12 ships," Diane reported soberly. 8 corvettes and 4 cruisers. Alliance casualties are significantly lower, only 3 vessels lost. Alex nodded grimly. "That's within projected parameters. Begin rescue operations immediately. I want all survivors recovered within the hour." "Captain," the comms officer interrupted. "Incoming transmission from the Celestial Accord." The view screen shifted to show Commander Zrix, his skin now a vibrant turquoise that Alex recognized as the Mrenan expression of amazement. "Captain Reeves, we are in your debt. The Vrex have never been defeated so decisively." "Don't celebrate yet, Commander," Alex cautioned. "This was just one battle. The Vrex will adapt. That's what hive minds do. We've bought ourselves time, nothing more. Nevertheless, you've accomplished what 11 systems and 27 species could not." The commander's gill slits fluttered with what might have been emotion. "The Alliance Council is requesting your presence at an emergency session to discuss future collaboration." Alex exchanged glances with Diane. "Future collaboration?" "Yes, it seems we have much to learn from humans after all." The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Alliance Council on Arcturus Station was designed to inspire awe. Soaring crystal spires captured the light of the nearby binary stars, casting rainbow patterns across the circular floor, where representatives of 27 species sat in perfect equality. Alex, along with a small delegation of human officers, stood at the center of the chamber, feeling distinctly underdressed in their naval uniforms, among the elaborate ceremonial attire of the council members. High Counselor Alara, a Theln whose obsidian skin seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, addressed the assembly. For 2 galactic standard years, the Vrex Dominion has expanded unchecked. 11 systems have fallen despite our best defensive efforts. Yet today we witness what many thought impossible. A decisive victory against an enemy that has consistently outmaneuvered us. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. "And we owe this victory," she continued, "to the most recent additions to our galactic community. The humans, who until 50 years ago were confined to a single planet in an unremarkable star system." Alex fought the urge to fidget under the collective gaze of hundreds of alien dignitaries. Beside him, Diane maintained perfect composure, while Obi seemed genuinely fascinated by the architectural wonders around them. "Captain Reeves," the High Counselor addressed him directly. "The Council would hear your assessment of the situation. Have we truly defeated the Vrex, or is this merely a temporary setback for our enemy?" Alex stepped forward, keenly aware that his words would be transmitted to billions of beings across Alliance space. "High Counselor, honored representatives, what we achieved today was significant but not definitive. The Vrex operate according to evolutionary algorithms. They learn from every encounter, adapting to overcome previous failures." "You believe they will return stronger?" a Paloran representative asked, his feathered crest rippling with concern. "I know they will," Alex stated firmly. "Hive minds don't experience defeat the way individualistic species do. There's no demoralization, no psychological impact. Only data to be processed and strategies to be refined. High Counselor Alara leaned forward. Then what do you propose, Captain? How does one defeat an enemy that learns from every engagement? Alex took a deep breath. By changing the rules faster than they can adapt. The Vrex rely on predictability. They identify patterns and exploit them. The Alliance's military doctrine, with all due respect, is perfect in its logical consistency. That's why the Vrex have been so successful against you. And humans are inconsistent? The question came from a Mrenan counselor, his tone suggesting this was not necessarily a compliment. Proudly so, Alex replied with a smile. Human military history is filled with examples of seemingly irrational decisions that resulted in victory. We call it thinking outside the box, deliberately breaking established patterns to create opportunities that logic alone would never suggest. You propose we abandon logic in favor of chaos? The Peloran representative's feathers flattened in obvious disapproval. Not at all, Alex clarified. I propose a synthesis. The Alliance possesses technological superiority, disciplined forces, and unified purpose. What humans bring to the table is adaptability, unpredictability, and a willingness to take calculated risks that defy conventional wisdom. Diane stepped forward, adding, in human history, we've observed that the most successful military strategies combine structure with flexibility. Too much structure becomes rigid and predictable. Too much flexibility descends into chaos. The sweet spot lies somewhere in between. The council chambers fell silent as representatives processed this perspective. Finally, High Counselor Alara spoke again. Your proposal has merit, Captain Reeves, but I must ask, why would humanity risk its ships and citizens for an alliance you joined barely 5 decades ago? You have no colonies in the systems the Vrex have conquered. Your home world remains far from their expansion path. Alex exchanged glances with his officers before answering. Counselor, humans have a saying. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. We've spent much of our history learning this lesson the hard way. When the Alliance asked for help, there was only one answer we could give. Commendable sentiment, a Drusen representative commented, his crystalline form glittering as he moved. But sentiment doesn't explain your government's willingness to commit significant military resources to our cause. Doesn't it? Alex countered. Throughout human history, we've formed alliances based on shared values rather than mere proximity. The Galactic Alliance represents everything humanity aspires to: peaceful cooperation among diverse cultures, scientific advancement, and the free exchange of ideas. If that's not worth fighting for, I don't know what is. A ripple of approval passed through the chamber, even among the more skeptical representatives. High Counselor Alara raised a hand for silence. Captain Reeves speaks with conviction, and his actions have earned our trust. I propose we establish a joint military task force, combining Alliance resources with human tactical expertise, to address the Vrex threat permanently. The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. Only the Drusen abstained, citing their traditional neutrality in military matters. As the session concluded, Alex found himself surrounded by grateful representatives offering various cultural expressions of gratitude, some familiar from his diplomatic training, others completely mysterious. Commander Zrix approached as the crowd began to disperse. Captain, I must confess I had serious doubts about your tactics. They seemed reckless. They were, Alex admitted. But calculated recklessness is sometimes exactly what's needed. A difficult concept for many Alliance species to accept, Zrix observed, his gill slits fluttering thoughtfully. We've evolved toward cooperation and consensus. Humans seem to have evolved toward creative disagreement, Alex suggested. An interesting euphemism for chaos, the commander replied, but his skin had shifted to an amused shade of blue. Nevertheless, it appears the galaxy needs both approaches. The Alliance Council has approved an unprecedented integration of our military forces. You will be offered a significant command position. Alex blinked in surprise. Me? Surely there are more experienced human officers. The Council was quite specific, Zrix interrupted. They want the human who turned defeat into victory. The formal offer will come tomorrow, but I thought you should be prepared. As the commander moved away, Diane joined Alex, arching an eyebrow. What was that about? Apparently I'm being offered a promotion to lead the joint task force against the Vrex, Alex replied, still processing the information. Congratulations, sir, she said with a grin. Always knew your peculiar brand of controlled insanity would be recognized someday. Very funny, Commander. He glanced around the magnificent chamber, now mostly empty except for a few lingering representatives. Can you believe we've come this far? Half a century ago, we were still arguing about whether to establish a permanent base on Mars. And now we're leading the defense of 27 alien species against a hostile hive-mind. Diane shook her head in wonderment. If my great-grandfather could see me now, he'd think I was hallucinating. Speaking of hallucinations, Alex nodded toward the entrance, where Obi was engaged in animated conversation with a group of Peloran scientists. Our lieutenant seems to be making friends. Obi could make friends with a black hole, Diane observed. He's been pestering the Alliance engineering team for access to their quantum communications array since we arrived. Always the scientist, Alex mused fondly. We should probably rescue him before he talks those poor Pelorans into a migraine. As they crossed the chamber, Alex's communicator chimed with a priority signal. Reeves here. Captain. The voice of his tactical officer aboard the Intrepid came through, tense with urgency. Long-range sensors have detected unusual activity at the edge of the Procyon system. Vrex signatures, but different somehow. Alex's expression hardened. Different how, Lieutenant? They're smaller, sir. Hundreds of them. And they're moving in formation patterns we haven't seen before. He exchanged a grim look with Diane. Looks like the Vrex have already begun adapting. We'll return to the Intrepid immediately. Have the Alliance representatives been notified? Yes, sir. Commander Reeves is already preparing the Celestial Accord for departure. Very good, Reeves out. He turned to Diane. So much for the victory celebration. Did you really expect the Vrex to sulk in a corner after one defeat? She asked wryly. No, but I had hoped for more than 12 hours to catch my breath. He sighed, then straightened his shoulders. Round up our people. We've got work to do. The tactical room aboard the Intrepid buzzed with activity as officers from both human and Alliance forces gathered around the holographic display. The image showed hundreds of small Vrex vessels moving in tight, complex formations around larger carrier ships. They've completely redesigned their approach, Obi explained, highlighting key elements of the enemy formation. Instead of relying on large capital ships coordinating swarm tactics, they've inverted the model. Small, highly maneuverable attack craft supported by carrier vessels that remain at the periphery. Like insects protecting their queen, Alex observed. They've taken a page from Earth's evolutionary playbook. Commander Reeves studied the display with obvious concern. They adapted this quickly? It's unprecedented. Not for a true hive mind, Diane pointed out. They function as a single organism with distributed processing. Once they identified the flaw in their previous approach, changing tactics would be instantaneous. The good news, Obi continued, is that these smaller craft appear to have limited armaments. They sacrifice firepower for speed and numbers. And the bad news? Alex prompted. Their movement patterns are far more complex. The Chaos agents we deployed before won't be as effective against this distributed model. Alex circled the display, studying the Vrex formation from different angles. They're adapting to our adaptability, countering unpredictability with even greater unpredictability. It is rather ironic, Reeves commented. They're using your own tactics against you. Not quite, Alex disagreed. They're using what they think are our tactics, but they're missing a fundamental aspect of human military thinking. Which is? The commander's gill slits fluttered in curiosity. We don't just adapt tactically, Alex explained. We innovate conceptually. The Vrex can copy our methods, but they don't understand the principles behind them. They see patterns even in our chaos. He turned to the assembled officers. This new formation is designed to counter our previous approach, but it creates a different vulnerability. These small attack craft must maintain precise distances to function effectively as a unit. Their strength comes from coordination, not individual firepower. So we disrupt their coordination, Diane concluded. Exactly, Alex agreed. But not with technology this time. The Vrex will be expecting our electronic warfare approach. Instead, we use an old-school tactic, flak fields. Obi's eyes widened in understanding. Unpredictable physical obstacles rather than electronic countermeasures. Brilliant, sir. I'm not familiar with this flak concept, Reeves admitted. It's ancient, Alex said with a grin, dating back to Earth's Second World War. We flood space with physical debris, ball bearings, ceramic fragments, anything that won't show up clearly on sensors, creating zones where small craft can't maneuver safely at high speeds. You want to turn space into an obstacle course, Commander Reeves stated, his skin shifting to a thoughtful purple. But won't this debris pose a risk to our own vessels as well? Not if we know where it is, Diane explained. We map the debris fields and navigate accordingly. The Vrex, with their emphasis on real-time coordination, won't have time to map and communicate safe passages. It's barbarically simple, Zrix marveled. No complex technology, no sophisticated countermeasures, just space gravel. Sometimes the oldest solutions are the most effective, Alex said with a shrug, especially against an enemy that expects cutting-edge technology. For the next hour, the combined Human Alliance fleet prepared for the approaching Vrex armada. Cargo ships were hastily converted to debris dispensers, loading their holds with manufactured fragments specifically designed to create maximum navigational hazards while minimizing long-term environmental impact. Standing on the bridge of the Intrepid as final preparations were completed, Alex felt the familiar tension before battle. But this time, it was tempered with something else. A sense of shared purpose that transcended species differences. "Captain!" Obi called from his station. "Vrex fleet has entered the system. They're advancing toward Arcturus station at maximum velocity." "Right on schedule," Alex muttered. "All ships, execute Operation Sandstorm. Debris dispensers, begin deployment according to the tactical overlay." Throughout the system, specially modified vessels released clouds of engineered particles, some no larger than grains of sand, others the size of baseballs. To sensors, they appeared as little more than background radiation, but to physical objects traveling at combat speeds, they posed a significant hazard. "Vrex fleet is entering the first debris field in 30 seconds, Diane reported, watching the tactical display. "All Alliance vessels maintain position," Alex ordered. "Let them come to us." The results exceeded even Alex's expectations. The Vrex small craft, moving in tight, intricate formations, encountered the invisible hazard at full speed. The smallest particles abraded sensor arrays and communication antennae, while larger fragments caused catastrophic damage to vessels unable to maneuver quickly enough to avoid collision. "Their formation is destabilizing," Obi reported, a note of victory in his voice. "Multiple craft are reporting navigation failures. The carrier vessels are attempting to compensate by issuing updated command patterns, but the debris fields are interfering with their ability to maintain coherent control." "Phase 2, Alex commanded. "Targeted EMP strikes on the carrier vessels. Let's see how these smaller craft function when cut off from their queens." The Alliance's specialized EMP platforms, previously held in reserve, now unleashed precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses, designed to temporarily disable Vrex command and control systems. "Vrex command networks are failing," Diane confirmed. "The attack craft are reverting to backup protocols." "Now!" Alex ordered. "All ships engage at will. Focus fire on disoriented targets." The Human Alliance fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. Unlike the previous engagement, where complex tactics had been necessary to counter the Vrex's superior coordination, this battle quickly devolved into a one-sided rout. Without centralized guidance and unable to navigate safely through the debris fields, the Vrex small craft became easy targets. "Vrex carrier vessels are withdrawing," Obi announced after 20 minutes of sustained combat. The remaining attack craft appear to be attempting to follow, but many are still trapped in the debris fields. Alex nodded in satisfaction. "Allow them to withdraw, no pursuit." "Supreme Commander?" Zrix questioned from the Celestial Accord. "They need to report their failure," Alex explained. "Let them tell the Vrex Collective that we countered their adaptation with a completely different approach. Let them waste resources trying to develop countermeasures for tactics we'll never use again." "Psychological warfare against a hive mind?" The commander's tone conveyed skepticism. "Not psychological," Alex corrected. "Resource warfare. Every time they adapt to our previous strategy, we change the rules entirely. They'll exhaust themselves developing solutions to problems that no longer exist." Silence followed this explanation, broken finally by a sound Alex had never heard before. A Mrenan laugh, a bubbling sort of trill that made the commander's gill slits vibrate. "Captain Reeves, I begin to understand why the Council was so insistent on offering you command of the Joint Task Force. You don't think like any military strategist I've encountered in my 300 years of service." "I'll take that as a compliment, Commander. As it was intended, the Alliance Council will be most pleased with this outcome." 3 months later, Alex stood at the viewport in his new quarters aboard Arcturus Station, gazing out at the combined Human Alliance fleet that had grown to impressive proportions. As Supreme Commander of the Joint Defense Initiative, He carried the hopes of 27 species on his shoulders, a burden that occasionally kept him awake during the station's artificial night cycle. "Admiring your handiwork?" Diane asked, entering with 2 steaming mugs of what the Alliance mess hall claimed was coffee, but tasted more like liquefied bark with delusions of caffeine. "Just thinking about how quickly everything's changed." He accepted the mug with a grateful nod. 6 months ago, I was captaining a single ship. Now I'm responsible for the largest combined fleet in galactic history. Having second thoughts? She joined him at the viewport, her reflection ghostly against the stars beyond. "Just the usual existential crisis before breakfast," he replied with a wry smile. "Nothing serious." "Well, your existential crisis will have to wait. The tactical briefing starts in 20 minutes, and Obi's practically vibrating with excitement over the new intelligence reports." Alex groaned. "Let me guess, the Vrex have completely redesigned their approach again?" "Actually, no," Diane said, her expression unusually grave. "They've gone silent. No movements, no communications, nothing for the past 16 days. He straightened, coffee forgotten. "Complete silence? That's concerning?" "Concerning enough that the Alliance Council is convening an emergency session this afternoon." She handed him a data tablet. "They want you to present strategic options." Alex skimmed the intelligence report, his frown deepening with each paragraph. "The Vrex don't retreat, and they don't hide. If they've gone silent, they're planning something big," Diane finished for him. "That's the consensus. Or they found a weakness we don't know about yet." He set down the tablet and drained his coffee in one grimace-inducing gulp. "Tell Obi I want every scrap of data we have on Vrex communication patterns for the past 6 months. And get me Commander Zrix. If anyone understands Vrex behavior patterns, it's him." "Already done. He's meeting us in the tactical room." Diane hesitated, then added, "There's something else. The Earth Defense Council sent a priority communication. They're concerned about the allocation of human resources to this conflict." Alex's expression hardened. Translation: certain factions back home are getting nervous about committing so much of our fleet to an alien war. "Politics," she said with distaste. "Never changes, regardless of the species." "Can't blame them entirely," Alex admitted as they headed for the door. "Earth is still recovering from the climate wars. The idea of sending our best ships and soldiers to fight someone else's battle doesn't sit well with everyone." "Is that how you see it? Someone else's battle?" He stopped, considering the question seriously. "No, I see it as the only battle that matters. If the Vrex conquer the Alliance, how long before they set their sights on Earth? We're not fighting for aliens, Diane. We're fighting for humanity's future in this galaxy." "You should put that in your speech to the Council," she suggested as they entered the corridor. "It has a nice ring to it." "I don't make speeches," he grumbled. "I just shoot things and occasionally yell at people who deserve it." "Ah, the great human tradition of shooting things and yelling. No wonder the Alliance is so impressed with our species." Despite the tension of the moment, Alex found himself laughing. "When you put it that way, it's a miracle they let us join at all." The tactical room was already crowded when they arrived. Officers from a dozen different species huddled around displays, conversing in a mixture of standard galactic and their native languages. The universal translators integrated into Alliance uniforms occasionally created odd linguistic hiccups, particularly with the Theln, whose language relied heavily on subsonic frequencies that human ears couldn't detect without assistance. Lieutenant Obi and Cozy waved them over to the main strategic display, where he stood with Commander Zrix and a Peloran scientist Alex recognized from previous briefings. "Captain, sorry, Supreme Commander," Obi corrected himself, still adjusting to Alex's new title. "We've been analyzing the Vrex communication blackout. It's not just tactical silence. They've completely changed their transmission protocols." "Changed how?" Alex asked, studying the data patterns on the display. The Peloran scientist, Dr. Alex, gestured to a series of waveform analyses. Previously, Vrex communications occurred across standardized quantum frequencies, complex but predictable. They've now shifted to something we've never seen before, a modulation pattern that seems to incorporate random elements. "Not random," Zrix interjected, his gill slits fluttering rapidly. "Deliberately unpredictable. They're applying the same principles humans used against them tactically to their communication systems." A chill ran down Alex's spine. "They're learning faster than we anticipated. More concerning," Obi continued, "is what our long-range probes detected 2 days ago at the edge of former Vrex territory." He manipulated the display to show grainy footage of what appeared to be a massive construction project. They're building something big. Alex leaned closer. Analysis? Inconclusive, Dr. Alex admitted, feathers rustling in frustration. The structure doesn't match any known Vrex military architecture. It appears to be some form of enormous array, but its purpose eludes us. How enormous are we talking? Diane asked. Current estimates put it at approximately 48 kilometers in diameter. Obi replied grimly. Alex whistled softly. That's not a weapon, that's a megastructure. Whatever it is, Zrix said, we must assume it poses a significant threat. The Vrex do not allocate resources without purpose. Agreed. Alex studied the images thoughtfully. We need better intelligence. Obi, I want a stealth reconnaissance mission planned immediately. Our smallest, fastest corvette with the best sensor package we can cram into it. Sir, the risk? Diane began. Is necessary, Alex finished firmly. We're fighting blind without knowing what that structure is. I concur, Zrix said, surprising everyone. The Mrenan commander had gained a reputation for caution bordering on conservatism. But no Alliance vessel possesses both the stealth capabilities and speed necessary for such a mission. The Vrex have adapted to our sensor profiles. Then we use a human ship, Alex decided. The Phantom. It's small, fast, and incorporates our newest metamaterial hull that can absorb sensor pings rather than reflecting them. Who would you send on such a mission? Zrix asked. It would require exceptional piloting skills and technical expertise. Alex met Diane's gaze, seeing the answer in her eyes before he even spoke. Someone who knows Vrex tactics inside and out. Someone who's been studying them from day one. Obi, Diane said quietly. The lieutenant straightened, surprise giving way to determination. Sir, I'm ready. The Phantom is designed for a two-person crew, but I can handle her solo for a mission like this. Not solo, Alex corrected. I'm going with you. A chorus of protests erupted, loudest among them Diane's. With all due respect, sir, that's insane. You're the supreme commander of the entire defensive initiative. You can't risk yourself on a reconnaissance mission. I'm also the most experienced pilot we have when it comes to evading Vrex detection systems, Alex pointed out calmly. And unlike our Alliance friends, I've actually flown stealth missions in contested space. The commander is correct, Zrix agreed reluctantly. This mission requires your leadership here, not in the field. Alex shook his head. The mission requires the best chance of success. Two people who understand both the technical and tactical aspects of what we're looking for. That's Obi and me. Before anyone could argue further, a priority alert chimed across all their communicators simultaneously. The station's AI announced in its eerily perfect voice. Emergency council session commencing in 5 minutes. All command staff to the Grand Chamber immediately. Alex silenced his communicator with a tap. We'll continue this discussion afterward. For now, let's find out what has the council so alarmed. The Grand Chamber was in chaos when they arrived. Representatives from all 27 Alliance species argued amongst themselves, creating a cacophony that the Universal Translators struggled to process. At the center of the chamber, High Counselor Alara attempted to restore order, her obsidian skin almost white with stress, a rare emotional display for a Theln. Silence, she finally commanded, her voice amplified by the chamber's acoustic design. This discord serves no purpose except to delight our enemies. Supreme Commander Reeves has arrived. Let us hear what he has to say. All eyes turned to Alex as he made his way to the speaker's platform. Despite his discomfort with formal address, he understood the necessity of projecting confidence. Counselors, representatives, he began. I understand your concern regarding the Vrex communication blackout and the mysterious structure they're constructing. I've just come from a tactical briefing where we discussed these very issues. Is it a weapon? Called out a Druzen representative, crystal facets glittering anxiously. We don't know, Alex answered honestly. But we intend to find out. I'm authorizing a stealth reconnaissance mission to gather better intelligence. While the Vrex build who knows what. A Peloran senator's feathers bristled with agitation. We should strike now, before they complete this thing! Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Strike at what exactly? Alex countered. With what objective? Against a target whose purpose we don't understand? That's exactly the kind of predictable response the Vrex are counting on. The human is right, rumbled a massive representative of the Krell, a species resembling Earth's ancient dinosaurs. We must know our enemy's purpose before we commit our forces. And if this reconnaissance mission fails? Challenged a Mrenan counselor, whom Alex recognized as a frequent critic of human military tactics. If the Vrex complete their project while we gather intelligence, then we will face that threat with all the firepower the Alliance and humanity can muster, Alex promised. But I will not send ships and soldiers to die in an attack that might be exactly what the Vrex want. High Counselor Ilara raised a hand for silence. The Supreme Commander's caution is warranted. However, she turned to Alex. This council requires assurance that should immediate action become necessary, you are prepared to commit fully to offensive operations. I am, Alex confirmed. But first, we need to know what we're facing. I propose a compromise. We proceed with the reconnaissance mission immediately, while simultaneously preparing the fleet for potential offensive action. We'll be ready to strike the moment we confirm the nature of the threat. The counselor studied him for a long moment, then nodded. A reasonable approach. The Council will authorize both initiatives. She turned to address the Assembly. Representatives, we will reconvene in 12 hours to review the intelligence gathered. Until then, I ask you to return to your delegations and prepare them for potential conflict. As the representatives filed out, Diane approached Alex at the platform. Nicely handled. Though I notice you didn't mention your plan to personally pilot the reconnaissance mission. Political expediency, he admitted. No need to start that argument in front of the entire council. The argument isn't over, she warned. And now you'll have to face it from the Earth Defense Council as well. Their transmission included specific instructions about limiting personal risk exposure. Alex sighed. Bureaucrats, always managing to sound concerned while actually saying, "Don't make us look bad." Politics, Diane repeated with a shrug. Speaking of which, Administrator Cole is waiting in your office. Apparently, Earth wants a private word with its most famous military commander. Wonderful. Just what I needed today. He straightened his uniform jacket, a habit from his academy days that resurfaced whenever he felt stressed. Run preliminary mission prep for the Phantom. I'll join you after I've dealt with our Earth representative. Administrator William Cole was exactly what Alex expected. A career diplomat with perfect posture, immaculate clothing, and the practiced smile of someone who'd spent decades saying one thing while thinking another. He rose from his seat as Alex entered the office. Supreme Commander Reeves, Cole greeted him, extending a hand. Thank you for making time in what must be an extraordinarily busy schedule. Administrator, Alex returned the handshake briefly. I understand Earth has concerns about our operations here. Direct as always, Cole observed with a thin smile. It's refreshing in its way. Yes, certain factions within the Defense Council are questioning the wisdom of committing so many resources to this conflict. Certain factions, Alex repeated. Not you, of course. I serve at the pleasure of the Council, Cole replied diplomatically. My personal opinions are irrelevant. Cut the bureaucratic nonsense, Bill, Alex said, dropping into the chair behind his desk. We've known each other since the Europa incident. What's really going on? Cole's polished facade cracked slightly. Fine. Off the record? There's an election coming up next year, and the opposition is gaining traction with arguments about Earth-first policies. The current administration is feeling pressure to demonstrate that our alliance with these beings benefits humanity directly. These beings are the most advanced species in our sector of the galaxy, Alex pointed out. Their technology has advanced Earth medicine by decades. Their FTL drives made our interstellar expansion possible. Without the Alliance, we'd still be arguing about whether to establish a permanent colony on Proxima Centauri B. I'm aware of the benefits, Cole said stiffly. But the public sees our ships and soldiers being sent to fight in distant systems while piracy still threatens our own colonies. It's a matter of perception. Alex leaned forward. Let me clarify perception for you, Bill. If the Vrex defeat the Alliance, Earth will stand alone against an enemy that adapts to every defense we create. We're not fighting for aliens. We're fighting for survival. A compelling argument, Cole acknowledged. One I've made myself to the Council. However, they've instructed me to formally request that you reconsider your personal involvement in field operations. They've what? Alex's tone dropped dangerously. Your value as a strategic commander far outweighs any contribution you might make as a pilot, Cole explained carefully. The Council feels that risking the Supreme Commander on reconnaissance missions is imprudent. The Council feels, Alex repeated coldly. Tell me, Administrator, how many of those counselors have actually faced the Vrex in combat? How many have seen firsthand how they adapt to our tactics? That's hardly relevant. It's the only thing that's relevant. Alex cut him off. I'm not sending my people into unknown danger while I sit safely behind a desk. That's not how humanity won its battles, and it's not how we'll win this one. Cole sighed, dropping the official demeanor entirely. Alex, I'm trying to help you here. The Council is looking for an excuse to pull back our commitment to this war. If you get yourself killed on some crazy spy mission, they'll take it as proof that the entire Alliance is a liability for Earth. So I'm supposed to be a figurehead? Alex asked bitterly. A human face on an alien war? You're supposed to be a commander, Cole countered. That means making strategic decisions, not tactical ones. You've got thousands of capable officers under your command. Use them. Alex stood and walked to the viewport, staring out at the fleet beyond. For a long moment he was silent, weighing duty against instinct. Finally he turned back to Cole. I'll consider your request, he said carefully. But I won't make any promises. The mission requirements will dictate who goes. That's not the answer the Council wants to hear, Cole warned. Then they shouldn't have made me Supreme Commander, Alex replied. Now if you'll excuse me, Administrator, I have a war to run. After Cole left, Alex sat alone in his office, turning over the conversation in his mind. The Administrator had a point. Risking the commander of the entire initiative on a reconnaissance mission did seem foolhardy on its face. But something about the Vrex megastructure nagged at him. An instinct honed through years of space combat told him that whatever the Vrex were building was a game-changer, and he needed to see it with his own eyes. His communicator chimed. Reeves. Sir, it's Obi. We've processed more data from the long-range probes. You need to see this immediately. On my way. When Alex reached the tactical room, the atmosphere had shifted from tense to grim. Obi stood with Diane and Commander Zerix at the main display, all three wearing expressions that made Alex's stomach tighten. What am I looking at? He asked, studying the new sensor readings. Energy signatures from the Vrex construction site, Obi explained. We've analyzed the patterns and... He hesitated, glancing at Zerix. It's a gateway, the Mrenan commander finished, his skin a sickly gray color. A quantum aperture of unprecedented scale. A gateway to where? Alex asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Based on the quantum resonance patterns, Diane said quietly. They're attempting to create a stable wormhole to the core systems of the Vrex Dominion. The implications struck Alex like a physical blow. They're bringing reinforcements, not ships, an entire invasion force. If they succeed, Zrix said, they could transport tens of thousands of vessels directly to Alliance space, bypassing all our defensive lines. How long? Alex demanded. Based on the current rate of construction and energy buildup, Obi calculated. They could activate the gateway within 72 hours. Alex straightened. Decision made. Then we have less than 72 hours to stop them. Diane, assemble the command staff. Obi, prepare the Phantom. We launch in 2 hours. Sir, Diane protested. The Earth Defense Council can court-martial me after we save the galaxy, Alex finished. Some situations require direct action. This is one of them. Commander Zrix studied Alex with an unreadable expression. You understand that if this mission fails, both the Alliance and Earth may face extinction? I do, Alex replied solemnly, which is why it can't fail. The Mrenan's gill's slits fluttered in what Alex had come to recognize as resignation. Then may whatever gods you humans believe in watch over you, Supreme Commander. The fate of us all rests in your hands. 2 hours later, Alex and Obi sat in the cramped cockpit of the Phantom, running through final pre-launch checks. The stealth corvette was barely larger than an atmospheric shuttle, with every cubic centimeter optimized for speed, stealth, and sensor capacity rather than comfort. Metamaterial hull integrity at 100%, Obi reported. Passive sensors online, active sensors in standby mode. Engine signature dampeners functioning normally, Alex confirmed. Navigation systems locked on jump coordinates. The comm system crackled. Commander, this is Celestial Accord. You are cleared for departure. Launch when ready. Acknowledged Accord. Phantom launching now. The tiny ship slipped from its docking bay, its matte black hull seeming to absorb the starlight around it. Unlike most Alliance vessels, with their sleek, elegant designs, the Phantom was all harsh angles and irregular surfaces, a deliberate configuration meant to scatter sensor pings rather than return clean readings. As they cleared the fleet's perimeter, Alex engaged the FTL drive. The stars blurred around them as the Corvette accelerated to superluminal velocity, following a carefully plotted course designed to minimize their chances of detection. 6 hours to target at current speed, Obi noted, adjusting the sensor array. I've programmed the passive systems to alert us if they detect any Vrex patrol vessels. Good. We'll drop out of FTL at the edge of the Procyon system and approach using subluminal drives only. With any luck, they'll mistake us for background radiation. Obi nodded, then hesitated before asking, Sir, may I speak freely? Always, Lieutenant. Was this the right call? Coming personally, I mean. Commander Wells was quite adamant that you were taking an unnecessary risk. Alex considered the question seriously. There are times, Obi, when a commander needs to see the battlefield with their own eyes. This is one of those times. Whatever the Vrex are building, it's unlike anything we've encountered before. I need to understand it, not just read reports about it. The Earth representative seemed unhappy with your decision, Obi observed carefully. Alex laughed without humor. Administrator Cole represents politicians who've never faced combat. They see war as an abstraction. Numbers on a screen, resources to be allocated, risks to be calculated. But war isn't abstract. It's immediate and visceral, and sometimes requires instinct over policy. Obi nodded thoughtfully. My grandfather fought in the water wars in East Africa. He used to say that no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. Smart man, your grandfather, Alex said with a smile. The Vrex are the most adaptable enemy humanity has ever faced. We need to be equally adaptable, and that sometimes means breaking the rules. The next 6 hours passed in the tense quiet that experienced soldiers recognized as the calm before battle. They spoke little, each lost in their own thoughts as the ship hurtled toward what might be the decisive moment of the war. As planned, they dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Procyon system, immediately powering down all non-essential systems to minimize their energy signature. Passive sensors online, Obi reported softly, as if the Vrex might hear them through the vacuum of space. Beginning wide-spectrum scan. The sensor display illuminated, showing the distant star and its planetary bodies. At the edge of the system's habitable zone, a massive energy signature pulsed like a malevolent heartbeat. There it is, Alex murmured. The gateway. Energy readings are off the charts, Obi confirmed. Whatever they're building, it's drawing power equivalent to a small star. Take us closer. Maintain stealth approach protocol. The Phantom glided forward on minimal thrusters, its course deliberately erratic to mimic the random movement of space debris. As they approached, the structure gradually became visible through the ship's forward viewport. A colossal ring of dark metal, interspersed with glowing nodes that pulsed in complex, rhythmic patterns. Magnificent, Obi breathed, professional detachment momentarily overcome by the sheer scale of the engineering. The energy manipulation required to create a stable wormhole of that size? Focus, Lieutenant, Alex reminded him. Begin detailed scans. I want structural analysis, power distribution, and most importantly, any potential weaknesses. For the next hour, they circled the massive structure at a safe distance, the Phantom's sophisticated sensors gathering terabytes of data. The Vrex presence was substantial. Hundreds of ships moved around the gateway in perfect coordination, ferrying materials and adjusting components with machine-like precision. Sir, Obi said suddenly, his voice tight. I'm detecting an anomaly in the power distribution network. There's a pattern here that doesn't match Vrex engineering principles. Alex leaned closer to the sensor display. Show me. Obi highlighted a section of the gateway where the energy flows seemed to converge. These power conduits, they're not Vrex design. The quantum signature matches Alliance technology. That's impossible, Alex stated flatly. The Vrex haven't captured any Alliance quantum technology. Not willingly, no, Obi agreed grimly. But 11 systems fell before we engaged. They must have salvaged Alliance tech from conquered worlds. And reverse engineered it, Alex concluded, the implications sinking in. They're not just adapting tactically. They're incorporating our technology into their own. It gets worse, Obi continued, adjusting the scan parameters. The power fluctuations suggest they're having integration issues. These readings indicate multiple system failures and restarts. They're troubleshooting, Alex realized. That's why they've gone silent. They're focusing all their resources on solving the integration problems. Which means we might have more time than we thought, Obi suggested hopefully. Or less, Alex countered. If they solve the problems suddenly, the gateway could become operational without warning. He studied the structure thoughtfully. Can you isolate the critical nodes? The points where Alliance and Vrex technology interface? Obi's fingers danced across the sensor controls. Working on it. There. 7 primary interface nodes, distributed evenly around the structure. Those are our targets, Alex decided. If we can disrupt those nodes simultaneously, the entire network should cascade into failure. Sir, with respect, Obi said carefully. The Phantom isn't equipped for an assault of that magnitude. We're a reconnaissance vessel, not a strike ship. We're not going to attack now, Alex clarified. We're gathering intelligence for a coordinated strike. The fleet will handle the actual assault. As if triggered by his words, the ship's proximity alert chimed softly. Obi's eyes widened as he checked the display. Sir, Vrex patrol vessels approaching. 3 of them, on an intercept course. Have they detected us? Alex demanded, already reaching for the flight controls. I don't think so, Obi replied, studying the sensor readings. Their course suggests a standard patrol pattern, but they'll pass within visual range in approximately 2 minutes. Time to leave, Alex decided. We have what we need. Plot a course away from the gateway. Use the system's asteroid belt for cover. The Phantom pivoted silently, accelerating on minimal thrust toward the distant band of asteroids that encircled the Procyon system. For a tense minute, it seemed they would escape unnoticed. Then everything went wrong. A previously dormant section of the gateway suddenly flared with energy, bathing the surrounding space in exotic radiation that illuminated the Phantom like a spotlight. They've seen us! Obi reported urgently as alarms blared across the cockpit. Patrol vessels altering course to intercept. Evasive maneuvers, Alex ordered, taking manual control of the ship. Prepare for emergency FTL jump! The Phantom surged forward, its stealth compromised but its speed unmatched by the heavier Vrex vessels. Alex's hands flew across the controls, executing a series of maneuvers that strained both the ship and its occupants. FTL calculations complete, Obi reported. Ready to jump on your mark? Not yet, Alex replied, his focus absolute as he guided the ship toward the asteroid belt. We need to break line of sight first. The radiation flash disrupted their targeting systems temporarily, but they'll recalibrate soon. The first volley of Vrex energy weapons lanced past the Corvette, missing by meters rather than kilometers. Too close for comfort. Return fire? Obi asked, hands hovering over the weapons controls. Negative. Maintain stealth protocol. Our best defense is speed and evasion. Alex banked the ship sharply, diving toward a cluster of asteroids. Hang on! The Phantom threaded a path through the asteroid field that no automated system would have attempted. Alex relied on instinct and experience, pushing the ship to its structural limits as they weaved between massive rocks at velocities that left almost no room for error. Behind them, one of the Vrex patrol ships attempted to follow, misjudged the gap between 2 asteroids, and erupted in a spectacular explosion as its hull crumpled under the impact. 1 down, Alex noted grimly. 2 to go. The remaining patrol vessels took a more cautious approach, skirting the edge of the asteroid field while maintaining sensor lock on the Phantom. Their weapons continued to fire, forcing Alex into increasingly dramatic evasive patterns. Sir, Obi called out. They're transmitting our position to the gateway. More ships are being diverted to intercept. Time for Plan B, Alex decided. Arm a probe torpedo. Program it to emit Alliance quantum signatures at maximum power. Understanding dawned on Obi's face as he quickly configured the torpedo. Creating a diversion. Brilliant, sir. Sometimes the oldest tricks are the most effective, Alex replied, guiding the ship behind a particularly large asteroid. Ready? Torpedo armed and programmed. Launch! The torpedo streaked away from the Phantom, curving around the asteroid field on a course perpendicular to their own. As programmed, it began broadcasting Alliance quantum signatures, essentially shouting its presence to Vrex sensors. The effect was immediate. Both patrol vessels altered course to pursue the more conspicuous target, exactly as Alex had hoped. FTL jump now, he ordered, before they realized they're chasing a decoy. The stars blurred around them as the Phantom leapt to faster-than-light velocity, leaving the Procyon system and the ominous gateway behind. When they were safely beyond pursuit range, Alex finally relaxed his grip on the controls. That, Obi said with feeling, was too close. But worth it, Alex replied, reviewing the sensor data they'd gathered. We now know exactly what the Vrex are building, and more importantly, how to stop it. The Alliance won't believe this, Obi said, shaking his head at the readings. The Vrex incorporating Alliance quantum technology, it changes everything. No, Alex corrected him. It confirms what I've suspected all along. The Vrex aren't just an enemy. They're an adaptive intelligence capable of assimilating any advantage they encounter. That makes them the most dangerous force in the galaxy. And yet, Obi observed, they still have weaknesses. The integration issues prove that. Alex nodded. Every complex system has vulnerabilities. Our job is to exploit them before the Vrex can adjust. He set the autopilot for the return journey to Arcturus Station. Get some rest, Lieutenant. When we arrive, all hell is going to break loose. The emergency council session made the previous meeting seem orderly by comparison. Representatives shouted over one another, demanding immediate action, defensive withdrawals, or in the case of one particularly panicked Drusen, the complete evacuation of Alliance space. High Counselor Alara had given up attempts to restore order and simply waited, Obsidian face impassive, for the chaos to subside naturally. Alex stood at the center of it all, the data from the Phantom's mission displayed above the council floor in holographic detail. Despite the uproar, his voice cut through when he finally spoke. Representatives of the Alliance, I understand your fear. The Vrex Gateway represents an existential threat to everything we've built together. But panic will not save us. Action will. Gradually, the chamber quieted as all attention focused on the human commander. The reconnaissance mission was successful, Alex continued. We now understand exactly what the Vrex are building. A quantum gateway designed to bring their main fleet directly into Alliance space, bypassing our defensive lines entirely. Then we are doomed, a Paloran representative declared, feathers drooping in despair. No, Alex contradicted firmly. We have an advantage. The Vrex are attempting to integrate Alliance quantum technology into their gateway design. Technology they've salvaged from conquered worlds. The integration is imperfect, creating vulnerabilities we can exploit. He manipulated the holographic display, highlighting the 7 interface nodes they had identified. These are the critical junctions where Vrex and Alliance technology meet. If we can disrupt these nodes simultaneously, the entire gateway will collapse. And how do you propose we do that? Asked the Mrenan counselor skeptically. The gateway is deep in Vrex-controlled space, surrounded by their fleet. Any attack force would be detected and destroyed long before reaching the target. Not if we use their own tactics against them, Alex replied. The Vrex rely on predictable responses. They anticipate that we'll either launch a massive fleet action or attempt another stealth mission. So we do neither. He expanded the display to show a tactical overlay. I propose Operation Trojan, a two-pronged approach that the Vrex won't expect because it defies conventional military logic. For the next 20 minutes, Alex outlined his plan. The chamber remained silent as representatives absorbed the audacity, some would say insanity, of what he proposed. When he finished, High Counselor Alara leaned forward, her obsidian face unreadable. You are suggesting we deliberately sacrifice a significant portion of our fleet as a diversion? I'm suggesting we make the Vrex believe we're sacrificing part of our fleet, Alex clarified. The ships will be real, but the crews will be minimal, just enough to maintain basic functions. The Vrex will detect a major fleet action and respond accordingly, drawing their forces away from the gateway. Meanwhile, Commander Zrix continued, having grasped the strategy. A special forces team infiltrates the gateway itself using captured Vrex technology to mask their approach. Ingenious, if it works. It's desperation, countered another counselor. A human gambit born of their primitive military history. Perhaps, Alex acknowledged. But that primitive history is filled with examples of outmatched forces defeating technologically superior enemies through unconventional tactics. The Vrex understand patterns and logic. They don't understand human desperation. High Counselor Alara raised a hand for silence. The plan has merit, but enormous risk. Who would lead this infiltration team? It would require intimate knowledge of both Vrex and Alliance technology. Alex met her gaze steadily. I would, Counselor. Along with Lieutenant Nkosi and a small team of Alliance quantum specialists, we have the best chance of completing this mission successfully. A murmur ran through the chamber as representatives processed this information. Administrator Cole stepped forward, his diplomatic facade cracking under stress. Supreme Commander, I must formally object on behalf of Earth. You've already taken an unauthorized reconnaissance mission that nearly resulted in your capture. To propose personally leading an even more dangerous infiltration is the logical choice? Alex interrupted firmly. I've studied Vrex tactics more extensively than anyone else in this room. Lieutenant Nkosi understands their technology better than any other human. This mission requires both perspectives. Cole's face reddened. The Earth Defense Council specifically instructed. The Earth Defense Council isn't here. Alex cut him off. They're not seeing what we're seeing. This isn't about politics or protocol, Administrator. It's about survival. High Counselor Alara intervened before the exchange could escalate further. Administrator Cole, while we respect Earth's concerns, this is an alliance matter. As Supreme Commander of the Joint Defense Initiative, Captain Reeves has operational authority in this conflict. Cole recognized defeat when he saw it. With a stiff nod, he withdrew, though the look he gave Alex promised that the matter was far from settled. The plan is approved, the High Counselor announced after a brief conferral with the other senior representatives. Operation Trojan will commence in 18 hours. All military assets are hereby placed under the direct command of Supreme Commander Reeves and his designated officers. As the council session adjourned, Alex found himself surrounded by his command staff. Diane's expression was a mixture of concern and resignation. I should be going with you, she insisted. You're needed with the fleet, Alex replied. The diversionary action is just as crucial as the infiltration. If the Vrex don't take the bait, none of us will survive. At least take more personnel, she argued. A 2-person infiltration team is the minimum necessary for success, Alex finished. More people means more chances for detection. Obi and I have the skills needed, and we already work well together. Commander Reeves approached, his skin a thoughtful blue-gray. Your plan is either brilliance or madness, Supreme Commander. Perhaps both. Either way, it is distinctly human. I'll take that as a compliment, Commander. As it was intended, Reeves confirmed, his gill slits fluttering. The Alliance has much to learn from your species' approach to warfare. Whether we survive to apply those lessons remains to be seen. Alex smiled grimly. That's what I like about you, Reeves. Always the optimist. 16 hours later, Alex and Obi stood in the hangar bay of Arcturus Station, making final preparations for their mission. The infiltration vessel was unlike anything in either the human or Alliance fleet, a hybrid craft cobbled together from salvaged Vrex technology and modified with Alliance stealth systems. She's not much to look at, Obi admitted, running a hand along the ship's irregular hull. But her quantum signature should register as Vrex to any patrol vessels we encounter. As long as she flies, Alex replied, checking the specialized equipment they would carry aboard. Appearance is the least of our concerns. The hangar doors opened to admit Diane, accompanied by Commander Reeves and, surprisingly, Administrator Cole. Alex steeled himself for another confrontation, but the Earth representative's demeanor had shifted from opposition to reluctant acceptance. Supreme Commander, Cole greeted him formally. I've received new instructions from the Earth Defense Council. They've been apprised of the situation and have authorized your operation. Alex raised an eyebrow. That's an abrupt change of heart. Let's just say that when faced with extinction, even politicians can be pragmatic. Cole replied with a hint of dry humor. The Council extends its full support and wishes you success. How diplomatic of them, Alex observed. Yes, well, Cole cleared his throat. Off the record, Alex. Good hunting. Earth is counting on you. With a nod that conveyed more than words could express, the Administrator withdrew, leaving Alex somewhat bemused by the unexpected support. The diversionary fleet is prepared, Diane reported, all business despite the emotion in her eyes. 34 vessels, minimal crews, all equipped with enhanced signature generators to make them appear fully staffed. The Vrex will detect the approach and respond according to their tactical protocols, Reeves added. Our analysis suggests they will commit at least 60% of their defensive forces to intercept what appears to be a major assault, creating the window we need, Alex concluded. Perfect. Obi emerged from the infiltration vessel. Final systems check complete, sir. We're ready for departure. The moment of farewell had arrived. Alex had never been comfortable with goodbyes, preferring action to sentiment. Diane apparently felt the same, offering a crisp salute that he returned with equal formality. Try not to blow up the entire fleet while I'm gone, he told her, attempting levity. Try not to get yourself killed, she retorted. The paperwork would be endless. Reeves extended a webbed hand in the human gesture he had learned since their first meeting. May the currents guide you safely, Supreme Commander. Thank you, Zrix. Alex clasped the Mrennin's hand briefly. Keep the Alliance together, no matter what happens. You have my word, the Commander promised, his gill slits fluttering with emotion. With final preparations complete, Alex and Obi boarded the infiltration vessel. The cramped cockpit barely accommodated two, with every available space filled with specialized equipment for their mission. As the hangar bay doors opened to the vastness of space beyond, Alex felt the familiar mixture of tension and focus that preceded combat. Infiltration vessel Deception requesting clearance for departure, he transmitted to Control. Clearance granted, Deception, came the response. Operation Trojan is now active. Good hunting, Supreme Commander. The vessel slipped silently from the station, its hybrid drives emitting the distinctive energy signature of Vrex propulsion systems. To any observer, or more importantly to any Vrex sensor array, it would appear to be just another patrol craft returning from reconnaissance. Course laid in for the Procyon system, Obi reported. Estimated arrival in 4 hours at maximum stealth velocity. Proceed, Lieutenant, Alex ordered, and cross your fingers that our Vrex disguise holds up under scrutiny. For the next 4 hours, they traveled in tense silence, monitoring communications channels for any indication that Operation Trojan had begun. Right on schedule, they intercepted Vrex transmissions indicating a massive fleet approaching from Alliance space. Diane's diversionary force had been detected. It's working, Obi confirmed as he analyzed the communications. Vrex vessels are being diverted from the Gateway defense perimeter to intercept the Alliance fleet. Good. Maintain course and speed. We need to time our approach perfectly with the peak of the diversionary engagement. As they neared the Procyon system, the density of Vrex communications increased dramatically. The universal translators struggled with the complex encryption patterns, but enough came through to confirm that the Vrex were committing significant forces to counter what they perceived as a major Alliance assault. Gateway defense reduced to approximately 30% of previous levels, Obi reported. Mostly automated systems and minimal patrol vessels. Now for the hard part, Alex murmured as they entered the system's outer boundary. Activating Vrex identification protocols. The infiltration vessel's computer began transmitting the complex authentication codes they had harvested from captured Vrex technology. For several tense seconds, they waited to see if the deception would be accepted. Receiving clearance signals, Obi announced with restrained excitement. They think we're one of them. Don't celebrate yet, Alex cautioned. We still need to reach the gateway and place the disruptors on each interface node. Maintain radio silence from here on. They approached the massive gateway structure, now even more imposing than during their reconnaissance mission. Energy surged visibly through the quantum conduits, creating an eerie aurora-like effect around the entire construct. Dozens of Vrex vessels moved in precise patterns around it, continuing the final construction and integration processes. Using the authentication codes as clearance, Alex guided their vessel toward the closest interface node, ostensibly for a standard maintenance check. The Vrex, focused on the distant battle with Alliance forces, paid little attention to what appeared to be routine activity. Preparing for EVA, Obi said quietly, checking his specialized spacesuit. Unlike standard Alliance or human designs, these suits incorporated Vrex visual patterns and energy signatures to maintain their deception during the spacewalk. Remember, we place the disruptors and retreat immediately, Alex reminded him as they sealed their helmets. No heroics, no delays. They're timed to detonate simultaneously, giving us exactly 20 minutes to clear the blast radius. Understood, sir. They depressurized the small airlock and emerged into the vacuum of space, using minimal thrust from their suit jets to propel themselves toward the massive interface node. Up close, the integration of Vrex and Alliance technology was even more apparent, and more precarious than their sensors had indicated. Alex signaled to Obi, pointing out the optimal placement for the first quantum disruptor. The lieutenant nodded, carefully attaching the device to the exposed conduit junction. Once secured, they retreated to their vessel and repeated the process for each of the remaining nodes. Their work was methodical and precise, each movement calculated to appear as routine maintenance to any observing Vrex systems. By the fifth node, Alex began to believe they might actually succeed without detection. Then everything changed. A sudden surge of energy coursed through the gateway structure, causing their vessel's sensors to fluctuate wildly. Obi checked the readings, his face pale behind his helmet visor. Sir, they're initiating the gateway. They're activating it ahead of schedule. How long do we have? Alex demanded, already moving toward the sixth node. Minutes at most. The energy buildup is accelerating exponentially. Obi hesitated. Sir, we should retreat now. 5 disruptors might be enough to— Might isn't good enough, Alex interrupted.
We need all 7. Continue as planned. They placed the 6th disruptor with increased urgency, no longer concerned with maintaining the appearance of routine maintenance.
As they approached the final node, the entire gateway structure thrummed with power, the quantum aperture at its center beginning to shimmer with the distinctive distortion of space-time being forcibly reconfigured. It's working, Obi breathed, awestruck despite the danger. They're actually creating a stable wormhole. Not for long, Alex replied grimly, securing the final disruptor. Let's move. They jetted back to their vessel with reckless speed, abandoning all pretense of being Vrex maintenance personnel. As they reached the airlock, alarms began blaring across the structure. They had been discovered. Disruptors are armed and synchronized, Obi reported as they sealed the airlock and repressurized. Detonation in 15 minutes. That's cutting it close, Alex muttered, taking the pilot's seat and initiating launch procedures. Hold on! The infiltration vessel broke away from the gateway structure just as Vrex defense systems began targeting them. Energy beams lanced past their hull as Alex executed evasive maneuvers, pushing the hybrid craft to its structural limits. They're in pursuit, Obi called out. 3 patrol vessels, closing fast. We don't need to outfight them, Alex replied, focused on the navigation controls. We just need to outrun them for 13 more minutes. The chase that followed tested every piloting skill Alex had developed throughout his career. The infiltration vessel, though disguised as Vrex technology, lacked the refined combat capabilities of either human or Alliance military craft. Its hybrid nature made it unpredictable even in skilled hands, forcing Alex to adapt his tactics moment by moment. 10 minutes to detonation, Obi reported. Vrex patrol vessels still in pursuit. A sudden explosion rocked their craft as a glancing hit connected with their port thruster. Warning lights flashed across the control panel as Alex fought to maintain stability. Damage report. Port thruster at 40% capacity, Obi replied, fingers flying across the control panel. Hull integrity holding, but another direct hit could breach the metamaterial layer. We need a diversion, Alex decided. Prepare to jettison the emergency beacon on my mark. Sir, that's our only distress signal if something goes wrong. If we don't get clear of the blast radius in the next 8 minutes, a distress signal will be the least of our concerns. Obi nodded grimly, configuring the beacon. Ready, sir. 3, 2, 1. Mark! The beacon shot away from their vessel at maximum velocity. Its emergency protocols activated to broadcast a general distress call on all frequencies. As expected, one of the Vrex patrol vessels diverted to investigate the sudden new contact.
2 down, 1 to go, Alex muttered, pushing the damaged craft harder.
How much time? 6 minutes to detonation, Obi reported. Wait, sir, I'm detecting a massive energy surge from the gateway. The quantum aperture is stabilizing. Alex risked a glance at the sensor display. The gateway now pulsed with coherent energy, the wormhole at its center fully formed and expanding. They've done it, he said grimly. They've established a connection to Vrex space. But why activate it now, in the middle of a battle? The answer came seconds later as the wormhole flared with activity. Sir, Obi's voice cracked with alarm. Massive contacts emerging from the aperture, hundreds of them. The reinforcements, Alex realized. They're coming through earlier than we anticipated. The diversionary attack must have accelerated their timeline. The disruptors won't detonate for another 5 minutes, Obi pointed out. By then, a significant portion of their fleet could already be through. Alex made a split-second decision that went against every instinct of self-preservation. We're going back. Sir? If those reinforcements make it through, the Alliance is finished. We need to trigger the disruptors manually. Before Obi could protest, Alex had already reversed course, piloting directly toward the gateway and the emerging Vrex armada. The pursuing patrol vessel, confused by their sudden change in direction, hesitated just long enough for Alex to gain crucial distance. Sir, this is suicide, Obi stated flatly. Even if we manage to detonate the disruptors early, we'll be at ground zero of a quantum explosion. I know, Alex replied, his focus absolute. But we signed up to protect Earth and the Alliance, whatever the cost. This is the job, Lieutenant. Obi was silent for a moment, then squared his shoulders. Yes, sir. What's the plan? We'll use the ship itself as a trigger. A direct hit to any interface node will create a cascade reaction that should detonate all 7 disruptors simultaneously. That would require precise targeting at extremely close range, Obi pointed out, and our weapons systems aren't designed for that kind of accuracy. Who said anything about weapons? Alex asked grimly. We're going to ram it. Understanding dawned on Obi's face. The reactor. A controlled overload on impact would provide more than enough energy to trigger the cascade. Exactly. I'll get us as close as possible to the central node. You configure the reactor for maximum yield on impact. As they raced back toward the gateway, the situation grew increasingly dire. Dozens of Vrex warships had already emerged from the wormhole, with more appearing every second. The massive structure itself was now ringed with defensive platforms that immediately detected their approach. 3 minutes to scheduled detonation, Obi reported, as he worked feverishly on the reactor controls. Reactor configured for overload. Impact will trigger immediate detonation. Energy beams from the defensive platforms slashed around their vessel as Alex pushed it to maximum velocity, aiming directly for the central interface node where Vrex and Alliance technology met in precarious harmony. Sir, Obi said suddenly, his voice steady despite the circumstances. It's been an honor serving with you. Alex glanced at the young lieutenant, seeing not fear but the calm acceptance of a soldier who understood the meaning of sacrifice. The honor has been mine, Obi. Your grandfather would be proud. The gateway loomed before them, a technological marvel that represented both the greatest achievement and the gravest threat of the Vrex Dominion. As defensive fire intensified around them, Alex held true to his course, targeting the critical junction with unwavering precision. Impact in 30 seconds, he announced. Diane's going to kill me for this. If it helps, sir, I don't think she'll have the opportunity. Obi replied with gallows humor. Fair point. The distance closed rapidly, the central node growing larger in their viewport. 20 seconds. 15. 10. At 5 seconds to impact, Alex allowed himself one final thought of Earth. The world humanity had nearly destroyed before learning to cherish. The birthplace of a species whose greatest strength had proven to be its unpredictability. For humanity, he murmured as the node filled their view. And the Alliance, Obi added. Impact. The quantum explosion that followed defied conventional physics. The simultaneous detonation of 7 disruptors, combined with the reactor overload, created a cascade reaction that rippled through the precisely calibrated gateway structure. The wormhole, already unstable due to the forced integration of incompatible technologies, collapsed in on itself with catastrophic consequences. The resulting implosion consumed the gateway, the emerging Vrex fleet, and expanded outward to engulf a significant portion of the Procyon system before finally dissipating. The few Vrex vessels that had completely emerged from the wormhole before the collapse found themselves stranded, cut off from the Dominion and suddenly outnumbered by the approaching Alliance fleet. Aboard the Celestial Accord, Commander Zrix watched the sensor readings with a mixture of awe and grief. They did it, he said softly. They actually did it. Diane stood rigid beside him, her face a mask of professional detachment that did nothing to hide the emotion in her eyes. Of course they did, she replied. It was Alex's plan after all. His plans always work. At what cost? Administrator Cole asked quietly from behind them. No one answered. No one needed to. In the silence that followed, communication suddenly chimed across the bridge. The officer at the station straightened in surprise. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from a human emergency beacon. What? Diane's composure cracked. Where? Edge of the Procyon system, moving at high velocity away from the explosion site. On screen, Zrix ordered. The view screen flickered, showing static briefly before resolving into the battered but unmistakable face of Lieutenant Obi Nkosi. Celestial Accord, this is Lieutenant Nkosi requesting immediate extraction. Our situation is complicated. Obi! Diane exclaimed. What happened? Where's Alex? The lieutenant's image shifted as he adjusted something off-screen. The Supreme Commander is here, ma'am. Unconscious but stable. We ejected in the escape pod seconds before impact. That wasn't part of the plan, Diane said, relief warring with exasperation in her voice. No, ma'am, Obi agreed with a tired smile. The Supreme Commander made a last-minute adjustment, said something about not giving you the satisfaction of being right about his recklessness. A laugh that was half-sob escaped Diane before she could contain it. Sounds like him. Hold position, Lieutenant. Rescue vessels are on their way. As the transmission ended, Zrix turned to her with gill slits fluttering in what she had come to recognize as amazement. Your species continues to confound all logical expectation, Commander Wells. By all rational analysis, they should have perished in that explosion. That's humanity for you, Commander, she replied with a genuine smile. Just when all hope seems lost, we find a way. Indeed. The Mrenen's skin shifted to a thoughtful blue. Perhaps that is why the Vrex could never truly defeat you, despite their superior technology and adaptive capabilities. They understand patterns and logic, but they do not understand hope against all odds, or the stubborn refusal to accept defeat even when victory seems impossible. It's called being too stupid to know when you're beaten, Administrator Cole remarked, but there was unmistakable pride in his voice. A particularly human trait that has served us well throughout our history. Then, we are fortunate indeed, Zrix concluded, that humanity found its way to the stars and to the Alliance. Together, we may yet build a galaxy where neither the Vrex nor any like them can threaten our collective future. 1 month later, Alex stood at the viewport in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Alliance Council, watching as ships from 28 species, the latest being humanity's formal inclusion, moved in elegant harmony around Arcturus Station. His dress uniform felt uncomfortably stiff after weeks in a medical regeneration pod, but protocol demanded formality for today's ceremony. Still not used to the medal? Diane asked, joining him at the window. Her own uniform bore new insignia of rank. Commander Wells had become Admiral Wells following the reorganization of the Joint Defense Initiative. Alex fingered the unfamiliar weight at his chest. The Star of Alliance, the highest honor the combined governments could bestow. Only 18 had ever been awarded in the Alliance's 1,000-year history. Now he and Obi both carried the distinction. Not the medal, he admitted. The attention. I'm a soldier, not a politician. All these ceremonies and speeches make me miss the simplicity of being shot at. She laughed. That can certainly be arranged. The remaining Vrex vessels have regrouped in the Deneb sector. Intelligence suggests they're attempting to establish communication with the Dominion through conventional means. Let them try, Alex shrugged. Without the quantum gateway, it would take decades for a signal to reach Vrex space, and centuries for reinforcements to arrive using conventional FTL travel. The threat isn't over, she reminded him. Just postponed. Nothing ever ends completely, he agreed. But we've bought ourselves time. Time for humanity and the Alliance to grow stronger together. Speaking of which, Diane nodded toward the approaching figure of High Counselor Alara, accompanied by Commanders Rix and Lieutenant Nkosi. I believe your presence is required for the treaty signing. Alex straightened, composing himself for the diplomatic duties that had become part of his new role. As Supreme Commander of the Joint Defense Initiative, now a permanent fixture of Alliance security rather than an emergency measure, his responsibilities extended far beyond tactical planning. Supreme Commander, Alara greeted him, her obsidian face as impassive as ever, though her tone conveyed genuine warmth. The Council is assembled. The treaty formalizing humanity's full membership in the Alliance awaits only your signature as Earth's designated representative. An honor I never expected, Alex admitted. There are more qualified diplomats. None who have earned the trust of all 27 species as you have, Zrix interrupted. The Alliance needs more than diplomats, Supreme Commander. It needs leaders who understand that sometimes logic must give way to instinct, and that courage often defies rational calculation. Obi grinned. He means we need more humans willing to do spectacularly reckless things that somehow work out in the end. I believe I was more eloquent, Zrix protested, gill slits fluttering in amusement. But the lieutenant's interpretation is not entirely inaccurate. Alex looked at the gathered representatives. Alien faces that had once seemed strange and impenetrable, now familiar as colleagues and friends. Beyond them, through the viewport, Earth gleamed as a distant point of light among countless stars. One world among many, yet unique in its contribution to the galactic community. Very well, he said with a smile. Let's make it official. The sooner we finish the ceremony, the sooner we can get back to the real work, ensuring that when the Vrex or any other threat returns, they'll find us ready. As he followed the High Counselor to the signing platform, where representatives of 27 species waited to welcome the 28th, Alex reflected on the unlikely journey that had brought humanity to this moment. From a fractious species confined to a single world to key members of a galactic civilization, humans had proven that their greatest strength lay not in technology or resources, but in their unpredictable, adaptive, occasionally irrational approach to seemingly insurmountable challenges. The Vrex had failed to understand that quality, and it had cost them their invasion. Whatever threats the future held would face not just humanity's peculiar brand of determined chaos, but the combined strength of a galactic alliance that had learned to value it. Just as all hope had seemed lost, human soldiers had landed, and everything had changed. Not just for the Alliance, but for humanity itself.
In finding its place among the stars, Earth had discovered what it meant to be truly human. Not perfect, not always logical, but endlessly resilient, stubbornly hopeful, and at their best when facing impossible odds.
That, Alex reflected as he signed the treaty that would shape the future of 28 species, was humanity's gift to the galaxy. And it had proven worth fighting for. The end.